Greetings, this is Starseed Scottish here in an astrological horoscope for March the 22nd, 2019. Thank you for joining. Today is going to be really interesting because the moon is making several aspects to many of the planets and the nodes. And the moon is the fastest transiting body in our solar system that I'm aware of. It changes signs every 2 days. And so its energy is always moving, and it affects the tides of the ocean. And so in a similar way, it affects our emotional body, the tides of our emotions. So there, the moon will be in Libra, and I'm curious how you all felt about the eclipse, not the eclipse, the equinox. I felt really a lot of intense energy. Very activating, but also revealed a lot under the surface. And this is something I want to talk quite a bit about because the sun is exactly conjunct Chiron right now. And where is this? Here we go. So here's the sun at 1 degrees, exactly conjunct Chiron in Aries. Like I said before, Chiron has just entered Aries, going to be here for about 8 years. And one of the keywords for Chiron is the wounded healer. And there's much mythology about Chiron being like a healer of medicine, and but becoming wounded and learning the lessons. And I wanted to show you the discovery chart for Chiron, because I think that will glean some information of the nature of Chiron. And I think it's up here. Yeah. So Chiron was discovered in 1977, November the 1st. And so if I get this here, I'll circle some things. So the first thing that really stands out is Chiron, the ascendant of this chart, where it's discovered in California. The galactic center was on the ascendant. And the galactic center is like the womb of our solar system. Actually, our galaxy. And what this says is, Neptune is at 14, close to that. Is the Chiron has a really big lesson for, like, a very cosmic call. So I think, you know, when we heal ourselves, they say we heal the universe because we're all interconnected. And but the most prominent thing to look at first is that Chiron's sun is at 9 degrees of Scorpio, and it's conjunct Uranus and Mercury. 2 degrees of Uranus, that means, and Chiron's orbit actually is in between Saturn and Uranus. So what this says to me is that Chiron has a lot of Uranian energy. And because it orbits close to Saturn, it's this conflict of our structure and our boundaries and our liberation and freedom. And I can see this for myself, and I'm sure most others. We're always going back and forth between dualities of control and liberation. In Scorpio, there's a dark overtone, investigative, secrecy, occult, magic, and there's a healing component for sure, because Scorpio is a water sign, and this Scorpio stellium trines Chiron's natal Jupiter and the moon in Cancer. So the moon is the emotions, then Jupiter is the expansion. So, and Jupiter's retrograde in this chart. So it's that expansion is internalized. With the moon there as well, that's a very, very amplified sensitivity. So that trine exactly with the moon to Uranus is a kind of knowingness of, ironically, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, or not being afraid of the unknown. And anyone else doing healing work knows that we have to be open to the unknown. And you know, the wounded healer is a great meme, I think, for Chiron, because when we're wounded, we really tap into the reservoirs of healing so much more than if we were perfectly in health all the time. And it's, yeah, a real testament. This water trine really is a healing. Now there can be, with Jupiter, there can be excess. It could be dramatic. When Jupiter trine Uranus, for sure, can be chaotic, massive changes. And Mercury there, it could be could be some mental, you know, seeing the truth. Sometimes the truth can be very dark, and we can see there's a lot of corruption in the world, and it's not all love and light. I mean, ultimately, love is the power of the universe, but we live in a world of duality where evil does exist. There is free will for ill actions to occur. And I think Chiron is very aware of this because, you know, his whole myth is surrounded by a wound. And there's an aphorism or a phrase that I quote often, and it apparently came from the Buddha, and it goes, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." Because pain is just a fact of life. You know, death is a natural occurrence. Something grows, like a plant grows, it blossoms, it flowers, then it creates its seeds for the new generation, then it dies. Completely natural. And but suffering is a very different thing. It's a whole subject that goes into many areas, but it's suffering to me is an addiction almost to pain. It's there's just something mysterious about it, and you know, I have various theories that there's beings who actually feed on pain, feed on fear, and they encourage suffering because it allows something to go in a cycle of pain which repeats itself and does not heal. And that's not to say that we project our problems onto other external things, because ultimately we're responsible for all of our actions. And even if there are external evil forces, according to the laws of free will that I hear from many spiritual people, everything is a contract. Everything, and that's a very philosophical debate that, you know, the Jupiter square Neptune will really be going into. But pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. It's something just to meditate on, because just on a practical level, without being all philosophical about the nature of good and evil, it's very deep. Practical component is when we're in pain, we can choose to accept that pain and to learn from it and to embrace it as a natural awareness of our body telling us something. Or we can suffer by complaining about the pain and whining. And I mean, it's okay to feel, I think it's completely normal to feel anguish, and actually there's a big healing component of mourning for the legitimate actualization of our awareness within turmoil. And you know, when I see people cry, I often honor that, because tears cannot be faked. Life's is a movie, and there's just something so and that gets into cancer. There's a beauty of vulnerability when we can express the pain in a healing way. But suffering is different. I think suffering is sometimes, if we're expressing that, we're expecting something. There's this victimization, and it goes into whole arena. But I just wanted to raise that, because it's a theme that's going to be coming up. It came up for me already. I've been experiencing a lot, like constant pain in my mouth, one of my teeth, that I got fixed. But it's clear to me now that I need to get braces for my teeth, because my mouth is not aligned. And this constant pain I've been feeling, it's been testing me to become self-empowered to address it, or to ignore it and run away from it and suffer. And I've gone through many painful situations, physical pains and mental and emotional pains. But over the years, I've learned to heal it. And one of the most best ways is by surrendering the pain to a higher power. It's not to give away my responsibility, but it's to share. It's to not suffer in silence. Big thing. And one of the simplest ways is when I go into nature, go to the beach or park or forest, I open up my energetic body, Merkaba. It's just basically grounding, root chakra, to the core of the earth, and letting the higher centers connect to the sky. And I don't really think about that. I just basically enjoy the feelings of the natural energy. And anybody can do this. Also with other people, you can heal through other people, and that's going to be really highlighted with the Moon in Libra in the transits. But anyway, getting back to this Chiron discovery chart, that Moon trine really indicates, Moon Uranus trine indicates there's a lot of water energy in the Chiron's archetype. And Chiron itself was discovered at 3 degrees of Taurus, which is where Uranus will be approaching, which is quite interesting. The glyph of Chiron's interesting. It's a circle, which is like the sun, with like 2 points here. You can see this red picture, and it's like a key. Chiron is the key that rhymes. Because I think healing is the key for our ascension. It's pretty obvious this is like a prison planet. Not to say it being a victim, but there's just a lot of wounding that's everywhere, and for whatever reason, the wounds don't always heal. Maybe we're not ready, maybe we're not aware, but healing is the answer. And so I think Chiron really shows us this. Chiron's also conjunct, it's not shown here, the dark asteroid goddess called Sedna. Sedna has a lot of stories about this as well. I talked about it before. I'll definitely talk about her again. And because the healing is of the divine feminine and the masculine. In Aries, where Chiron has just entered now, it's definitely healing our male energy, which is our willpower, our sense of identity, our sense of self, what we do with our actions. In Pisces, where it was the last 7 years, there's much more the feminine energy of our emotional connection to stars, to spirituality, to sensuality. But now it's about actions. We've really tapped into the deeper inner world. Now I think Chiron wants us to use that inner knowing in the external world. So Chiron's he has a Libra stellium up the top here, which really indicates a lot about Chiron's journey, because this will be opposing Chiron later on in the next couple of years as Chiron goes into the second decan of Aries. So Chiron's north node is at 14 Libra, his Pluto is at 15 Libra, and his Venus is at 19 Libra. Incidentally, this is where the moon will be transiting tomorrow, highlighting a little bit of this. So it's like, yeah, I mean, Pluto conjunct the north node is the destiny of transformation, of relationships, Libra. And that's the sense I got with this full moon, because the moon in Libra is very much our emotions with others, whereas Chiron in Aries is ourself. Do we choose to focus on ourselves, or do we connect with others? Because if we heal ourselves, we can heal others, and vice versa. If we do not heal ourselves, others might reflect the lack of healing. So there's this magical mirror that is revealed in relationships to ourselves and others. Venus there with Pluto is that inner light, and Venus rules Libra, so that's an exaltation. So I think it's definitely indicating that the healing path is of relationships, of Chiron's destiny, which does say a lot, because in Aries, the opposing sign is the polarity point. Yeah, it's interesting. Chiron has quite a bit of masculine energy in his chart. He has Mars at 2 degrees Leo over here, and Saturn at 29 Leo, which interestingly is on a star called Regulus. Saturn in Leo is a restriction, though. Saturn generally confines energies. So I think Chiron has a conflict with his ego. Maybe his ego was damaged when he was wounded. I can say that for myself. It's hard for me sometimes just to kind of want to express myself, and because of inner doubt, inner fears. And Leo is the self, the expression of the self. So I think Saturn somehow contains that. It does trine the actual placement of Chiron in Taurus, so I think there's an earthy element. Yeah, with 4 degrees, yeah. So I think the more physical healing we do with Chiron, it will automatically heal our sense of self-expression related to our social status. So yeah, that's Chiron's chart. I think it does glean some information for sure. And the 70s was a real time, 77. That was actually after, yeah, that was a time of a lot of revolutionary energies. I wasn't there then, but I know for sure there's a lot of fascinating liberations, because yeah. So anyway, back to the transits. It's clearer. So yeah, the moon will be in Libra, 25 degrees in. I wanted to show this time because the moon will be making many aspects. Firstly, there's a T-square to the nodes, destiny. The north node in Cancer at the bottom, and the south node very close to Pluto, Pluto, Saturn. So the T-square is two squares directly to the moon, and then the opposition of Cancer Capricorn. Cancer Capricorn axis is often about emotional security and physical security. Then with Libra here is how we balance that with our relationships. The moon of Libra will be sextiling exactly many very close aspects. So this is going to be quite a strong energy. Squares to the south node Pluto is, how we relate our sense of power, the power plays of relationships. If we work for our corporations or other people, is there equality? Are we paid what we deserve? But there's a lot of transformation in the air with Pluto there, and I think it's important that we try and seek balance, because that's what Libra's all about. But by justice is another archetype, and that's really being highlighted even more so because there's an asteroid goddess that really highlights these energies, because she'll be conjoining the moon of Libra tomorrow. This asteroid goddess is called Pallas Athena. I'd like to show you either a discovery chart or a little article. So Pallas Athena is like a warrior goddess. Out of the four main asteroid goddesses, who are quite often about nurturing and spirituality, Pallas is much more yang in her energy. She has a rulership of Libra, but also I think she has an Aryan component because of the warrior. This article kind of talks about it a bit. The warrior queen, goddess of wisdom, courage, just warfare, strategy, and skill. Modern astrologers link her to things like creative intelligence, political new pattern recognition, relationships between father and daughter. She is a feminine character with the strength of Superman. So there's just definitely like a very yang energy of this, because the moon going over her will activate her energy. And strategic thinking, pattern recognition, because we have to, warriors are not just soldiers, so to speak. To me, there's the idea of the spiritual warrior, because for whatever reason in this world, we have to fight for freedom. It's a mysterious thing, and it becomes very clear to me. It's all about freedom and control, and many other things. And so, as we're fighting for freedom, I think these energies have been going on for eons of time, and especially Pallas has realized that you can't beat them, marry them, so to speak. And because when we have love and we know the higher powers, we don't really fight with fear, but we fight with wisdom. Warrior of wisdom. That's one way I like to call Pallas. And I'll just quickly show you the discovery chart of Pallas, because I think it will indicate some of her characteristics. So she was discovered in Bremen, Germany, 28th of March, 1802. Quite interesting, quite a long time ago. And so her sun was discovered at 7 degrees Aries, conjunct Venus, which doesn't surprise me. The warrior archetype is ruled by Aries. But Venus there is a sensuality, There could be a sexual energy there. I have Venus in Aries and on my midheaven, and I've learned that the Venus energy can be used in a very yang way, but it's still receptive, still the inner light, the and that is opposing almost exactly her natal Uranus and her natal sign. So the glyph of Pallas is very much like Venus. It has the line, the cross, but instead of the circle, it's a rectangle like this, which to me indicates square energy, which is challenge. The circle is very feminine because eggs are like that, and the nature. But the square is kind of more masculine in energy because it's four points. It's just more kind of controlled, and that really resonates with Pallas. So Pallas is her sun opposing Uranus, and somewhat her south node. Well, actually, her north node's in Pisces, but Uranus opposite the sun is yeah. So that can be a lot of tension in relationships, especially when we're standing for truth. When there's a lot of untruth in the world, we automatically create conflict. But Venus opposite Uranus is highlighting the relationship tension as well, even more so, because Venus in Aries is very independent. But Uranus in Libra does suggest that there is evolution within relationships. So she has Jupiter conjunct Saturn here at the top. Jupiter, Leo, 26, expansion of the ego. Then Saturn at 1 Virgo. So that's kind of being of service. And Virgo does well in Saturn, I believe, because it's Earth. It's an Earth trine, so I think it's an exaltation. But it quincunxes her moon in Aquarius at the bottom here, next to her part of fortune in Capricorn. So I think she's a comfortable. She needs freedom, because that's definitely a resonance of Pallas. She has this warrior spirit because I think she's seen what freedom is, and she will fight for it because she knows it deep in her soul with the moon. But that quincunx to the Jupiter Saturn is another tension, adjustment required, because if we want to be free, we have to compromise, which is a Libra theme. The Uranus resonance with Aquarius, which actually trines, yeah, it's exact trine, air trine with Uranus and the moon. So she knows what freedom is, but there requires adjustment, because if people don't know what freedom is, if they, for lack of a better word, are slaves, or I think a better way to put that would be that's a loaded term. But if people don't know what freedom is, and you do know what freedom is, you could be perceived as a threat if you share that. So it's like what I see is that many souls in our collective are afraid of freedom, ironically. And so to be compassionate and to be wise, it's not like we pretend and become false, but we will adjust. This is the creative intelligence part of Pallas. And Aquarius is very, very intelligent because it's the bird's eye view sign. Libra is the scales, but Aquarius is the waves of the ether, the two waves. Because when water and electricity meet, it creates a conductivity that can create superconductivity. The third dimension can be, through the duality of the Aquarian waves, can be superseded to the fourth dimension, and fifth, and sixth, and seventh, and the higher dimensions. And I've learned a lot that water is one of the most magical substances in the universe because with healing, baptisms, purification, but when water, which is the yin element, and electricity, the yang, air, those two are a sacred yin-yang component. And when they're combined in the correct way, that is the door, the key to the higher dimensions. I experience this all the time, and it's absolutely miraculous. And yet, very simple. So, yeah, there's definitely another, challenge component here because there's a T-square of Pallas' Chiron 21 Sag with her south node at 19 Virgo and her north node. This is called a skip step. I actually have this as well. My natal chart, different placements, but skip step is that healing is the answer because the north node is our destiny, the south node is our past. And the T square there is that push and pull between knowing what we are, our connection to the past. And Virgo, I have this in Virgo. South node in Virgo is understanding healing, intuitive instincts of healing, practicality, service, the earth, alchemy. But then the north node in Pisces is our lessons is to strive to find a sense of spirituality. Our north node is conjoined with loosely Mercury and Pluto. Wow. Pluto and Pisces? Wow. That's pretty, because it's 1800s. So, yeah, that's pretty epic. Pluto and Pisces is Pluto's transformation, and Pisces is unity consciousness. So that's a pretty vast. And Mercury there is having an insight. So Pallas having this perception. It's almost like she can see the future with this Moon Uranus trine. But with the Piscean, it's a feeling of the future. And I have a lot of Pisces energy. My progressed Mercury, my Sun, natal Sun, North Node, and I often get visions like these. Like in certain movies, science fiction movies, they have flashbacks and flash forwards of like insights. I quite often get these in altered states. It's like being a medium or in like a trance state, but it's a subjective point of awareness because the dream and the reality in Pisces are one and the same. But this T square to Chiron in Sagittarius is that healing of the higher mind is in question. Because if we know all the answers, does that give us freedom? I can tell you, I've done 10, 15 years of research, and I know a lot of things, but it doesn't mean anything if I do not apply it with wisdom. Knowledge is information, wisdom is applied experience. I've really come to terms with that. So I think that's part of this thing with Chiron and Sag. Chiron and Sag can be a lot about delusion of beliefs and seeing corruption, maybe how a lot of religions and a lot of belief systems in the world are based on false. It's everywhere. So yeah, there's a lot of that's very interesting, I think. And this is where the moon will be activating tomorrow on the 22nd. So yeah, that's I'll leave it for that for this chart. But anyway, Pallas is a very powerful avatar, and so she'll be right here with the moon at 25 tomorrow. And so the moon here, and this is trining Venus. So I think it's an opportunity for us to evaluate our relationships to ourselves and others, and our relationship with the higher dimensions. Or you could just say our relationship to our meaning, our understanding of reality, because it's Aquarius. Because the more we kind of navigate and search and with curiosity develop a relationship with the other, of this really this like doorway, this portal to ascension or enlightenment, just the question to explore that gives us opportunities. It's like I've heard many things that the higher dimensions can only help us if we meet in the middle, if we raise our hand and ask for assistance or search for interesting understandings. They will meet us in the middle. But if we're in this kind of victimization, the Chiron wound, thinking poor me, or escaping Pisces, because Neptune is with exactly conjoined Mercury, so there can be delusion. But it's sextiled by Saturn, so I think if we just anchor our spiritual energies to a practical, stable routine, especially with relationships, and I think our delusions, we can be guided to find more, guided in the right way. So the moon will be trining Venus, which is, trinings are like kind of soft aspects or very harmonious. So it is a good time to explore relationships, like I said. But Venus is squaring Mars, so we can expect to have some tension, irritability, Mars and Taurus, changes to our physical world for sure with Taurus. But Moon will be sextiling Jupiter. So that thing of meeting in the middle, asking for assistance, looking for inside of ourselves. I heard someone saying that we don't find our higher self, we are our higher self. And I think Jupiter would really like us to attain that. But it's not like we just kind of, with our ego, just say I am God or I am Almighty. We can have this humility with Venus of the balance scales, but with an excitement, a Venusian passion of Aquarius can be so exciting because it's the new age we're entering, where we can all be free. We can find our fate, but we build a bridge together with relationships. One other conjunct, finger of God, that I didn't talk about last time is what Venus has been making with Jupiter. So there's two circles there, they're sextiling. So when we work with our relationships for higher meaning, then we can heal our emotional body, North Node and Cancer, for our destiny. And their emotions, the sense of being vulnerable to the unknown, and being sensitive to the nurturing needs of ourselves and others is very important for our future, because there's going to be some really dark, heavy karmic stuff coming with this Saturn, Pluto, South Node. I can already feel it in the air. It's been going on for quite a bit, but it's going to get, this stuff's like a pressure cooker. And any of you know what a pressure cooker is, it's something that's, it's like a cooker that has a sealed lid, and it boils with pressure, whatever you're cooking in there. And that pressure is so intense that if you basically it would explode if it was opened in the wrong way. There's a way that it actually, but the thing with the pressure cooker, like going back to memories of childhood, is there's a little valve and small amount of the pressure comes out, which is quite symbolic that if we relieve a little bit of that pressure through the North Node in Cancer, squaring Libra, which is to say, by balancing our relationships and nurturing ourselves and others, that intensity that's just this heavy is blocked energy in the collective, that's just, you know, just through so much corruption and just things that don't work. If things don't work, quite often we'll just run away from them, but we can run, but we can't hide. That's a phrase I say often. We cannot hide from our karma. We get out of karma through dharma. Dharma is our destiny, North Node. Dharma is service. Dharma is our path, what we love. When we find our passion, we'll find our purpose. But karma is one of these things that creeps in. You push it under the rug as an automatic instinct, because nobody wants to feel pain. Nobody wants to feel bizarre, crazy, insane experiences. I understand that, but it's not responsible. Saturn wants responsibility, and Pluto wants transformation. So it's going to come, but the question is, are we going to put fate in our own hands, or is it going to come to us? Saturn, Pluto especially, will deliver it. Saturn will as well. These are two what traditionally known as malefics. Well, really Saturn and Mars, which means they can have a very negative tone if we don't work with them. And I mean, the universe, I think, is really going to just be guiding us along the way with these transits, giving us opportunities at every turn. But if we ignore the opportunities, fate will come. I think it was Carl Jung had a quote. See if I can get it up. I think it's a really cool quote. Yeah, here we go. This is really good. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and will call it fate. Individuals who believe they are masters of their fate are, as a rule, the slaves of destiny. That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, but the one I was thinking of is this one. You meet your no. Yeah, it was the first one. Yeah. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Until you make the unconscious, which is Pisces, the part of ourself we're unaware of, conscious, which is facing it with Aries and Libra, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Yeah, because quite often we'll see something externalized, and we think that that's just the way it is. But somehow we attracted that. Excuse the noise in the background. Maybe that's my fate. Well, it's appalling how loud noises are, and that's so-called a fire, you know, and ambulances and things like that. I won't get into it, but you know, this is our bizarre society we live in. I mean, I don't like to be too judgmental. I'm very grateful. This could be a million times worse, but our civilization has so much to improve, and that's why starseeds like me came here. So until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, your life, you will call it fate. Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of really resonates to yeah, this T-square. Saturn, Pluto on the South Node is kind of quite often unconscious. But Cancer could be unconscious as well because it's the instinctive realm. But Libra is our, and Aries is our choices of our self-healing, Sun, Aries. Which, well, yeah. Yeah, so it's important to choose our relationships. If our if in our relationships, if there's codependency, if there is control, which is the Capricorn thing, or if we're being taken advantage of with the Cancer, or if our kindness is taken for weakness, then that's it's an important decision to make the squares to either stop the relationship or call new terms. Be direct with Aries energy. Sun in Aries is a new cycle. It's astrological in a year, so this is a great opportunity for us to make new choices. Yeah, so Mercury and Neptune, we can really connect with the spirituality, but Mercury in detriment, as I've said several times before, it might not be clear, and I've been feeling kind of confused lately with a lot of things, and so I think, yeah, it's a great time for us to just look to the other, like watch a movie, yeah, because Neptune rules movies, but movies, we're enamored by the relationship, so like the hero and the villain. And I enjoy watching the new Star Trek Discovery series, and it kind of maybe connects me to my past lives, future lives, and starships. But I just love the social commentary of Star Trek and things, and many sci-fi movies, Marvel and Alita, talking about how our relationship to our inner warrior is and our fight for freedom is a universal thing that we're all part of, which is the Venus Aquarius. And the relationships we see in movies are reflected of our personal relationships, because we are all, as starseeds, we're also superheroes in our own ways. And even though we might not be a dramatic star on the stage, it is very important. Even the most mundane things, like when I'm at work at my health food store, just to be nice, give someone a smile, share something. It's the relationship of giving. Because when we give, we'll receive much more often. And it's not always about giving with the Aries. It's the receiving is very important, because to be open, if we're open to receive the pain of others, which is the Chiron polarity point, it's not opposite now, but it has been in this portal. We can feel the pain of others and have humility and compassion, Pisces, because actually the moon has been conjuncting Mercury and Neptune. So there's a mental focus for sure. But I've learned a lot. When I can have compassion for others' pain, it allows me to heal myself even more. Or there's just a sense of fulfillment. There's an inner strength. Because to identify pain of others, it means we can detach. Because the phrase I said at the start, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. When we can feel pain and face it head on, we can see that we're not afraid of fear. We're not afraid of pain. That's the challenge. That's one of the biggest challenges. Because if we're not afraid of fear, then we're not afraid of death. Then we can transcend the fear of anything. I mean, you still have that unknown, that that unsettling energy, but it's not having this mental paranoia. It's almost like a disease. It's looping. Only can accept that and to see it in others and have compassion for it and to know it's temporary. Then there's a lot powerful healing energy that can come through. So one last thing, because right now Venus is actually conjoining Black Moon Lilith, and I believe, yeah, Black Moon Lilith is at 25 Aquarius, and let's just get these away first. Maybe I'll talk about it in another video. Yeah, I think I've talked about a lot of things today. But Black Moon Lilith is a very fascinating dark goddess archetype. She shows the opposing energy of the moon is a power. Because when we know our inner nature, then we can reflect that mirror in the illusion of the external world to reclaim the power that has often been taken away from us. That's a whole other story I could really get into a lot, but I think we'll do that next time. So yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, this is a good time to explore the higher dimensions, to explore self and other, and to see that we're all interconnected. Until the next time, aloha from Hawaii. Keep shining.